How is it going, everyone? I hope you guys are having a fantastic day so far, but I'm here to bring you my review on Tokyo Ghoul chapter 132, which was entitled Into Meanings. Now, before I even dive into what happened with this chapter and into my review, first, we have to have a toast. Cheers to Kaneki and Touka. The fact that they're able to have an official wedding ceremony in the name of their love is amazing in the fact of this world of tragedy, but let's be honest, the fact that Yomo is happy and smiling, that deserves a cheers in and of itself. So, to the newlyweds. Anyway, guys, there is a lot to talk about that went down in this chapter. We have some great development going on with Saiko and Urie at the moment, and I'm really excited to see where their characters are going to be going. We also had the whole wedding ceremony that happened within this chapter. Getting to see Yomo actually smile. I'll talk about that when I get to that in my review. And of course, lastly, Hajime sending out a signal to the Ogai, and the fact that the Ogai most likely are going to be popping up next chapter in the underground. There's tragedy over the horizon, but let's not focus on all the tragedy that might come later on in the next chapter. Let's talk about the good stuff that happened within this chapter. So I'm going to start on page 1 and work my way through this chapter. If you guys want to follow along with me, please feel free to do so. Bring it up in another tab and let's just dive into this chapter. So the first page I do want to talk about is this cover page where it's just this concrete floor with this crack in it, but we can see flowers or weeds basically growing out of it. You guys know that Ashita loves his symbolism and foreshadowing. This is probably what that is. I don't know what he's trying to get at, but the feeling I originally got when I saw this, when I opened up the chapter, was kind of like a melancholy feel. I kind of felt like something bad was about to happen in this chapter, but another way that you can also look at it is that this could symbolize strength and determination, because what it takes for a flower or a weed to basically grow through concrete takes a lot of determination, a lot of strength, and a lot of willpower. But the other way that you can also take this is that weeds are also looked down upon, kind of similar to ghouls. And when someone sees weeds growing out of a crack in a concrete floor, basically it's their mission at that point to basically eradicate the weeds and basically get rid of the weeds entirely. So that's another way they can possibly look at this cover page. I'm not sure what Ashita is trying to get at with it, but that is kind of the feeling that I get. And if you guys have different feelings and you guys want to leave comments down below about what you think that this cover page means, feel free to do so. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on the matter. So for the first official page of this chapter, we actually see Kaneki in a war room type setting where he's surrounded by Shu, Yomo, Nishiki, basically his top generals within the GOAT organization. And what they are doing is that they're coming up with a plan and strategy about how they're going to obtain food and provisions for everyone within the GOAT organization, because as it stands right now, they don't have that many provisions to actually sustain themselves down in the underground. So they're gonna have to go up to the surface and try to find, humans or some type of meat that they're able to actually bring back down to the underground, so that way they can actually survive down there. And based on their planning, but also based around the information that Banjo is able to give them, there's this suicide forest where they're gonna be able to obtain the food source that they need to where they can actually bring that all the way back down to the underground, and hopefully that will be enough to sustain themselves down the underground long enough to where, it lasts them to the end of this war with Furuta and the CCG. So I do like the fact, that Kaneki is surrounded by kind of like his top men with Shu, Yomo, and Nishiki. But I also like getting to see Mise and Naki, because Mise we have not seen in quite some time, and it has been a few chapters since she has popped up, so I do like getting to see her in this chapter. And we do get to see her once again when the wedding ceremony takes place, but seeing, Mise and Naki together with each other, it just seems right. But I gotta say, the standout out of everyone talking with Kaneki is Shu, because as you move on through the conversation that they're having, he's the one that's thinking about how do we take out Furuta and the CCG, and he's thinking about Furuta, the CCG, little Jason, or as we know, Suzuya, V, and the Ogai. There's a lot of people involved with the CCG that are quite dangerous for GOAT, Kaneki, Shu, everyone within the organization. And right now, Shu is like, Kaneki, we need a game plan right now. And even Kaneki is like, yeah, we need a plan right now. Otherwise, how else are we going to get rid of Furuta? But the plan that Shu comes up with is actually very interesting, because he has no idea that Kaneki knows about Yoriko's execution. So he brings up the fact that on April 23rd, there's going to be this mass execution held to the public, to reinforce these, strengthening of these protecting of Ghoul laws laws. And he's like, how about we target that event and, lie in wait and we ambush them? But, Kaneki knows Furuta is smarter than he looks, and he's like, it's a trap. We cannot go in on this execution. We have to come up with a game plan, and Furuta is probably setting this up as a trap. As it stands right now, we can't go out because what if we leave our base defenseless and they come and attack us? So with all of this information in front of Kaneki, he's got a lot to think over about how to handle this overall situation with Yoriko's execution, but also taking out Furuta as the leader of the CCG. But as Kaneki is thinking about all of this information, he's also reminiscing on all of the fallen people that he's lost throughout his journey within Tokyo Ghoul, because we see on this entire panel all the people that have either died or he's lost in front of him. We have Hineme's mother Ryoko, we have Kei and Koto during the Jason torture, Shirazu, Arima, even Hide. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be like speculating and theorizing that if Hide is along with all of these dead people, that most likely confirms that Hide is dead right now. Honestly, that is still up in the air, and it's still left very vague on whether or not Hide is actually dead or alive. Right now, within Kaneki's own knowledge, he believes Hide to be dead. But honestly, in a few chapters from now, if it ever gets revealed that Hide is still alive, that is still technically true, because right now, within Kaneki's own mind and with the information he has at hand, he still believes that Hide is dead. But what I love about this is that this all pertains to the bottom panel on page 7, to where he says this dialogue, "Am I also to live only facing death?" Because as it's seen throughout all of his life, he has only witnessed death and despair throughout his entire life. Every person that he's kind of come in contact with, or at least has grown to love and have some sort of relationship with, has kind of died in the process. And this panel of him seeing the back of his mother and just seeing to where his whole journey, his whole life has led to this point, going from that point till now, he's seen a lot of death. And I know a lot of people are going to be comparing this right now with his relationship with Touka. We don't know where this relationship right now is going to end with Kaneki and Touka, whether it will end in tragedy or it will end in happiness. We don't know right now, but this right here, we should definitely sit on this dialogue where he says, "Am I also to live only facing death?" This is something we should sit on, and don't take it lightly, and just have it in the back of your mind as we move forward with the future Tokyo Ghoul chapters. But then we have Kaneki, Shu, and Yomo get interrupted by Touka, and I absolutely love this page right now, because as soon as Touka shows up and Shu is like, "Oh, Kirishima," and Touka's like, "Yo," the thought in Kaneki's mind, I know it's going to make a lot of people, light in the heart. They're going to love this section, because in his mind, and he absolutely adores and loves Touka. Like, you can see that directly in this panel when he's just looking at her. He looks like he has tears in his eyes kind of in that panel when he's looking at her. And then this is the point to where, going all the way back to when he talked with Hide during his fight with Arima in his mind, where he's like, "You're gonna find a reason to live." And this dialogue right here basically confirms that, where he says, "I want to live on, live and protect her." And I love what he blurts out right after this, because he goes, "Yomo, Tsukiyama," and they're like, "What is it, Kaneki?" And he immediately blurts out, "I married Touka," and the reaction from Touka is priceless in and of itself. But I love the delayed reaction of Tsukiyama and Yomo, because if you look at the two panels to where it's kind of the same panel when you look at it with Shu and Yomo, but it ends up changing to this panel to where the background is pandas. Someone pointed this out to me down in the comments of my live reaction, and I went back to look and I was like, yeah, those are pandas. Ashita is just known to put wacky backgrounds sometimes, because you guys got to remember with Furuta, there was like this one panel back during the Cochlea raid arc when he was fighting Eto, he had penguins in the background of his panel. I don't know why, it's just Ishida. So we should just expect wacky backgrounds from time to time with Ishida, but I love the fact that Kaneki just blurts out the fact, it's like, "Hey, I married Touka," and I was really looking forward to seeing Tsukiyama and Yomo's reaction, but we actually had to wait because we had this little deterrent where we actually moved over to Saiko and Urie. And in this moment, we see Saiko yelling at Urie that they need to save Yoriko from being executed, and as soon as she says this, it's like, we have to do something about this. And Urie immediately goes, "We can't go against the orders of the bureau chief." And Saiko immediately yells back to him, "Do you really not care at all?" And I love her like sense of just basically saying like, Yoriko's nice. She actually makes delicious bread. She is my friend. Anything to do with food, Saiko is immediately going to be your friend. So I absolutely love that piece of dialogue. But Saiko is MVP during this entire section because the faces she makes where she's just so angry and she's like, I guess I'm gonna have to take matters into my own hands, and immediately grabs the back of Urie's shirt and then proceeds to basically knee him in the back, the lower back. I saw this panel and I was like, yo, Saiko, you are going in on Urie right now. Like that pain that Urie probably felt in that moment, like it's just like an awesome panel. I'm looking at her right now and just her screaming, you blockhead, and immediately trying to snap some sense into Urie. I really do like that, and her just continue to yell at him, basically saying like, you guys are all acting weird. I don't care if I have to go out on my own. I will become a NEET. No, a terrorist. And this immediately kind of like jogs Urie's memory kind of back to sanity, to where he's basically like, you know what this means if you do have to do this. And Saiko immediately goes back to him saying like, I am aware. She leaves. Urie basically goes on to, go talk with her. And I love the conversation that they do have by the swing set, because here we actually get to see a quiet moment between Urie and Saiko. These two have been together basically since the beginning of Re. They know each other the best out of the current group of the QS squad. And getting to see Urie basically saying like, no, Saiko, you are right. Right now, CCG is just numb. It's a complete slaughterhouse. It doesn't know its true purpose right now. And, we gotta do what we gotta do. And Saiko is looking at him saying like, well, how? And Urie immediately goes, well, we will find a way. And she immediately replies back with saying like, what if we can't find one? And then this response of Urie is the complete best, where he says, well, just become terrorists, okay? That is completely awesome. So this basically confirms the mindset of Saiko and Urie to the point to where if it comes down to it, they will defect from the CCG and they actually might ally themselves with Kaneki and the GOAT organization, because as it stands right now, Urie does not trust Furuta at all. We can tell that Suzuya does not trust Furuta at all. The only person that would stay behind right now would possibly be Mitsuki and maybe the rest of the QS members. But Saiko and Urie right now, they are good candidates right now for, possibly defecting from the CCG and possibly allying themselves with Kaneki and the GOAT organization. And I am really looking forward to that. But now it's time to move on to the wedding ceremony. Now, I am on page 15, and even in my live reaction to this chapter, when I saw this page of the chapter, I did not think that this was an actual page in the chapter, because it kind of looked like official cover art for what Ashita tends to do for cover pages. But I immediately saw this, went to the next page, saw that it did continue with the chapter, and immediately realized that, oh, they're throwing a wedding ceremony for Kaneki and Touka. Even looking at like the stuff that they're wearing, you can tell that they just made, stuff from the trash and materials that are found in the underground. And I gotta say, they look absolutely amazing in like the clothing and the garb that they're wearing for their wedding ceremony. Touka does in fact look very beautiful. And this does mirror heavily with chapter 126 when we see Yoriko and Bunjin's wedding as well. And I will have a picture up right now on the screen just comparing the two, because Ishida does love to do symbolisms and parallels within Tokyo Ghoul, and this is a good parallel in and of itself, because you can see the yin and yang of just how these two weddings are basically viewed in society, where you have the human wedding bathed in white, it's seen as pure, it's kind of viewed and accepted within human society. But then when you go to the ghoul wedding of Touka and Kaneki, it's bathed in black, it's very dark and bleak, and you can kind of view that as like the people of human society would look down on this. It's got a yin and yang pull to it. So I do like the parallels that Ishida does with his work, and especially with like certain scenarios like with Yoriko and Touka's wedding. But even moving on from that, it even parallels even further to where we get to see, the party going on for the wedding ceremony. Now, I'm just gonna dissect this one little panel of everyone that we know within the GOAT organization just partying it up right now. Like, we can see Naki in the background just getting drunk off his ass, and we see him saying, alcohol really is a kick in the balls to sadness, huh? We even see a lot of his subordinates trying to keep up with Naki's drinking, and they can't even do that. So, as we can learn from this chapter, Naki is a heavy drinker, and he can hold his liquor. And we even see, Hirako with the Zero Squad. Odds are Zero Squad are not drinking alcohol because they are underage, but just getting to see their dialogue and looking at everyone else getting drunk is quite hilarious. Like them saying, Mr. Yomo is so cheery today. Don't end up like that. And getting to see Yomo actually smiling. Like, I don't remember actually seeing Yomo smile within the actual story of Tokyo Ghoul. He might have once or twice, but it's not that prevalent in my mind right now. And this is possibly the happiest he has been since, you know, Touka's mother was alive. Like, ever since then, I don't think he's kind of had a happy moment. And just seeing him wearing Nishiki's glasses and him having his arm over Nishiki's shoulders, basically saying like, this party's going till morning, Nishiki, get happy with me. Like, this is so nice to see, just seeing his character happy, enjoying, and having a good time. Even though Nishiki right now looks so pissed, and he's like, give it back, you drunkard. And you can even see Shu in the background. He looks content with the party and everyone's garbs that he kind of designed, and seeing how well everyone is enjoying themselves. We can even see Misa, you know, down in the corner, you know, drinking away. And then we can even see Hinami, you know, just looking all cute and adorable, seeing both Kaneki and Touka, you know, finally being engaged and married, and just seeing everyone else having a good time. And that is just such a good moment to see, because even Touka is looking at Yomo like, Yomo's gone nuts. And it's funny too, because she still doesn't know that Yomo is technically her uncle. So she just views him as, you know, her protector right now, and doesn't really know the family connection. So as of right now, Yomo is just over the moon with the fact that his niece got married to Kaneki, because we know that he's most likely over the moon with that fact, just seeing Kaneki and Touka happy together. And even, you know, seeing Kaneki and Touka having this nice moment, sharing it with their friends, is just an overall nice moment to see. But the last thing I do want to talk about with the whole wedding ceremony actually takes us all the way back to chapter 3 of Tokyo Ghoul. Now, someone did point this out to me in my live reaction. Actually, I think a lot of you guys actually mentioned this, and it's a good callback to early parts of Tokyo Ghoul when Kaneki asks Touka, is there anything I can get you? And she replies with cake. Now, if you go all the way back to chapter 3 of Tokyo Ghoul, Touka has mentioned cake before, and it's when she confronted Kaneki way back early in Tokyo Ghoul, when Kaneki, you know, was pleading to her to help him, you know, that he was like a half ghoul, he didn't know what to do, and her asking him, former human, what does cake really taste like? I don't really know, because it makes me want to puke and vomit, so I don't really know what it actually tastes like. It's revolting to me, but humans seem to love it. And the fact that in this chapter she is asking for cake, I find actually quite humorous, and it's a good callback to early chapters of Tokyo Ghoul. But another way I do also view this is that this is the cravings coming from the pregnancy, because usually when women get pregnant, they tend to have like weird cravings with food, and that's the kind of like how I view it with Touka. Like, sure, she has to eat human food in order for the baby to survive. Sure, it tastes disgusting to her, but right now she's having these weird cravings, and most likely she just wanted to eat cake. So I do love that fact that that's a nice callback to early parts of Tokyo Ghoul, and just getting to see how like happy that actually made Kaneki's face in the panel right after Touka said cake, and he's like, Roger. So moving forward from that, you know, we had the whole wedding celebration, and then we also had, you know, a little bit of a time skip, probably like a few days of just goat forming a foraging squad where they're all leaving to go acquire food up on the surface and then come back to the underground. But it's this last panel right after it gets revealed that everyone is leaving the underground going to get food that we see Hajime. You know, we see these white screens on the computers basically saying the word definite. I'm not sure if that's like a translation or if that's like in another language, but definite is all over the screens. And we get the reveal that Hajime has a device on his tongue, and he's basically signaling the O guy to come to the underground of the 24th Ward, come to his location. And this right here spells disaster on so many levels, because as of right now, we don't know who's going up to the surface and who is staying in the underground. So most likely I do see Touka staying in the underground, and most likely Kaneki went up to the surface. That's just my feeling right now, but we don't really know who stayed and who went. And right now, with the O guy about to come down to the underground and Hajime giving away the location with this weird device, there is tragedy to come. But overall, there's not really anything else to talk about for this chapter. I feel like I covered everything within this chapter. That is the bleakest part of this chapter. Everything else was just happy, go lucky moments. There were some great moments that happened within this chapter, but this is leading into something that can get very dire and most likely could possibly lead to character deaths moving forward in future chapters. We don't know who stayed, who went, There's a lot of possibilities right now, and now is the time to theorize about what's going to be happening in the future chapters to come. So that's my review of this week's chapter, guys. It's probably going to be a little bit longer than my normal reviews just because there's actually quite a bit to talk about for this chapter. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I do my best for these reviews. It's just a lot to talk about, but I definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts on what I mentioned, what I brought up, and just have an overall discussion about this chapter and where this last panel puts us into the next chapter moving forward. I definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts. I love talking with you guys. And if you guys are new to the channel, please feel free to leave comments in the comment section. I love talking with you guys. It's just an overall fun experience getting to talk with all of you Tokyo Ghoul fans because we love this series. We love the story. We love the characters. And it's just an overall fun yet tragic experience that we all get to experience together. So end of my review, guys. Leave your comments down below, and if you guys have not subscribed yet, feel free to do so. I would love to talk with you guys about Tokyo Ghoul, but until next week, when we get chapter 133 of Tokyo Ghoul Re, I'll talk with you guys then. All right, guys, see you later.